they embarked in cold blood on a mission that many recognized was likely to kill them, and that would require exceptional courage, skill, and luck to succeed. They lifted their big, clumsy, but curiously beautiful bombers from the tranquillity of a summer evening in the midst of the Lincolnshire countryside, barely 4 decades after the Wright brothers initiated heavier-than-air flight. For 2.5 hours they raced through the moonlit sky towards Germany at a height that made power cables as deadly a menace as anti-aircraft fire. They then attacked Hitler's dams, flying straight and level at 220 miles an hour, much lower than the tree-tops and less than a cricket pitch's length from the lakes below, to unleash revolutionary 4.5-ton weapons created by the brilliance and persistence of Barnes Wallis, a largely self-taught engineer. Half of 617 Squadron's aircraft, which got as far as Germany, failed to return, but 2 of the biggest man-made structures in the world collapsed into mud and rubble, releasing hundreds of millions of tons of water upon the Reich. The Allied bomber offensive has become one of the most controversial aspects of the Second World War. Some critics, not all of them German or Japanese, denounce the Western Allied assaults upon cities and their inhabitants as a war crime. The 1945 firebombing campaign by American B-29 superfortresses killed far more people in Tokyo and other Japanese cities than did the atomic bombs later dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The concept of air bombardment of civilians causes many 21st century people discomfort, indeed repugnance. Contrarily, it's a source of bitterness to some descendants of the RAF's wartime bomber crews that the public prefers to lavish legacy adulation on the Spitfire and Hurricane pilots of the Battle of Britain, defenders, than on their comrades, the attackers, who bombed Germany at the cost of enduring losses much greater than those of Fighter Command. Australian Dave Shannon of 617 Squadron denounced in his old age sanctimonious, hypocritical, and grovelling criticism about things that were done in a total war. Where, in all this, does the saga of the dam-busters rightfully belong? The Flyers contrived a feat that caused all the world to wonder, the Allied nations with pride, the German people and their leaders with horror and apprehension. Rumours swept the Reich that 30,000 victims had perished beneath the floods. Though the Lancaster crews were drawn from the RAF's Bomber Command, the force that nightly rained fire and destruction on Germany's cities, few, even among its critics, failed to perceive a nobility about the bravery displayed that night. In the spring of 1943, after nearly 4 years of austerity, unpalatable food, family separations, and spasmodic terrors, only lately ameliorated by a thin gruel of successes, the British people were weary. The Dams raid lifted their spirits, revived flagging confidence in their own nation's powers, and has few events since the desert victory at El Alamein 6 months earlier. We shall discuss below its effects on the Nazi war machine, which RAF planners aspired to cripple. I was born at the end of 1945, and thus was 5 when Paul Brickhill's best-selling account of Chastise was published, 9 when the film was released. Both book and movie made a profound impression. I memorized the names of almost every one of 617's pilots. I assembled and painted plastic models of the Avro Lancasters that they flew, became intimately familiar with Enemy Coast Ahead, Gibson's posthumously published memoir. As an adult, I began to study wars, first as a correspondent and eyewitness in faraway places, and then as an author of books. Although my ideas became much more nuanced than those of childhood, I was well served by familiarity with a host of World War II memoirs and histories. In 1977, I was commissioned to write Bomber Command, a study of the British strategic offensive. In those days,